Oh, we've all met an NPC, or as I call them, empty people. What does that mean? How does that happen? Why are we living in the world that we're living in this way? Some of this might sound a little bit woo, but if you stick with me, I swear you will see what I'm seeing. So, my name is Garza-Keith. I am a Chicana artist activist in Arica. I am here to help you. I will be looking down on occasion to look at my notes. Please stick with me. I might sound a little nutso, but I promise you, you'll probably have some of these experiences as well. So, what is what I refer to as an empty person? What does that even mean? Well, empty people are just people that, like, there's just nothing going on, you know? Like, you see someone and then, like, out of nowhere, they just, like, stop moving and just, like, stare. It's like, you okay, bro? There's just nothing. Or some of the people you see online where, like, you say something with logic, you're applying your critical thinking skills, and they just don't get it. Like, no matter how you reword it, no matter how kind you are, they're just like, it's right over their head. It's like talking to a brick wall. Or maybe you're in public and I don't know, where you see like 3 or 4 people just kind of like a couple weeks ago, I was at the grocery store. We were pulling into the parking lot and this woman we were behind her for, I don't know, about 1.5 miles. Like, she seemed to be driving just fine. And then we pull into the parking lot and it's like, she didn't have the brake lights on, but the car just slowly came to a stop. And we kind of sat behind her like, oh, is she gonna like wait for someone? Like, she's picking someone up? This is really weird. But then we were like, okay, well, she doesn't have her hazards on. She doesn't have the blinker on. The brake lights aren't on. We're just gonna go around her, kind of, hopefully she's okay. We go around the car and she has her hands on the wheel and her mouth is open and she's just staring. I was like, oh my gosh, we just encountered another one in the wild. But so how does this happen? Well, I am a strong believer that I'm going to go down a little rabbit hole. Follow me back, okay? So I'm a strong believer that there's no such thing as angels or demons. Like, I will occasionally use these words just because it's easier to explain it using these terms rather than going and explaining all of this. So angels and demons are essentially the same thing. It's just energy, maybe not in the right place. So think about the way that you interact and the way that you move, right? You're in an environment that's super loving. They're taking care of you. They're treating you with respect, with compassion. You're being hyped up. They really love you. And you love them back. You're like, yeah, this feels great. I'm super into it. This is amazing. Yeah. You're going to be your best self, right? You're going to be just as willing to help someone else out as they are to help you. Like, it's this conducive community feel. You being the same person you are in that environment now is suddenly shot into an environment that, like, ooh, these people are not listening to you. They're interrupting you. They're being disrespectful. They're talking down to you. Just like, oh, do you really believe that? Weird. Maybe you should look that up. Have you done your research? Or actually, you know, like the Joe Rogan thing is always so funny when he puts his nose up. It's like, actually, like environments like that where they're just not conducive to you thriving in your best self. They don't believe that you are who you are. You're gonna probably get a little bit hostile. Or maybe they actually start calling you names. Now you become reactive, right? The anger starts to surface. These things that aren't usually in your natural character are like here and present. You're the same person, just in 2 different environments. So I want you to go do a little mind thing. Like, think about this. So you've seen some horror movies. Some of them have like the possessions and whatnot. Yeah, some of it seems a little goofy, but I do exorcisms, and they're not always what they seem to be in the movie. Sometimes it's just someone that's having a really hard time coming to terms with the emotions that they're having, and we just have a really deep, loving conversation. And that releases the turmoil that they're having within themselves. But I have had other experiences where there is actually an entity attached that is just not conducive to that space. It is like you being in this hostile environment. The entity itself is more often than not, I have only ever encountered one actually hostile entity, and even then they probably just didn't trust me yet. It's about building that morale, that like conversation, that friendship in a sense. So when I'm doing these works, I speak with the individual, the client I'm actually working on, then I speak with the entity. And I try to build a bridge between the two. Speaking with the entity will allow me to do the work that I need to do. And almost every spirit wants to go home. Like, I'm sure some days you want to go home. Just like, I don't feel very good. I wish my mom would just make me some food. Or your guardian, loved one, whoever. Like, when you're given that opportunity, it's like, hey, like, if I just like on a whim, which is like, where would you want to go? Where you felt most loved? Most people, I believe, would say home, whatever that looks like with your chosen family or with your blood family, whatever. Entities operate the same way. They have an environment that they thrive in best. They have a way that they thrive in general. There was one client that I worked on, and an entity that I was working on they said that they were not an entity of time, which meant that they floated through space and time. They actually brought me other people that they were attached to, and they're like, please let me go home. In essence, they were a rainbow, which sounds a little wild, but like a rainbow can't be compacted down into our physical little bodies. That's huge. That is the entire light spectrum. Okay, keep following me, okay? So back to the poltergeisty kind of movies, the possessions and whatnot. You see these like, something is not where it belongs. Okay? Not necessarily evil, not necessarily a demon, probably not an angel either, just energy. That's it. It's an entity, just like you are, just like I am, within ourselves. Empty people have been taken. That is, okay, that's my crazy thought. Their spirit was abducted in a sense, more or less. Like, you ask for a higher spirit or something to come in and be like, please help me. Most of the time, that's just you doing the work for yourself. But when people become very, very, very desperate, so let's use the demon of greed, okay? For someone that's in the 1%, the demon of greed would be highly detrimental and very, very fatal for large communities of potentially impoverished people. They will use whatever leverage that they can with behalf of this entity on their side to get as much money as possible. This is how we see the world falling apart right now. But the same exact entity going to someone in these impoverished communities, they are utilizing this entity of greed. They are going to bring them abundance. They're going to bring them safety, nourishment, food. Those are all positive things. So, where do these entities come from? They come from somewhere. I am convinced that empty people are beings of their shells, that their soul has been just ripped out. Someone else needed it more for the moment, and they are on autopilot over here, and there's just nothing going on. That doesn't mean that they should be respected. They absolutely should be respected. Okay, there is no need to disrespect them, look down on them. They often will have the soul snap back. So you've probably experienced someone that you really cared about and they suddenly changed. They're just not the same person. They don't talk the same way. They don't move the same way. But you can't really think of anything that necessarily happened except for maybe it could have been something traumatic. And their soul just up and walked away. They're just like, nope, too much for right now. That can be a trauma response. It can also just be divine timing or something. I don't know. Kind of stepping in and being like, okay, this soul doesn't need to be here right now. So how do we interact with these beings? Well, try to speak through them, calling back to the spirit that belongs inside their body. Love them, protect them. People like this can often end up in more dangerous situations, like the woman that was driving the car. Like if that had happened, sorry, I love the car sounds right as I'm talking about the car. Like if that had happened while she was on the highway, that could have been fatal. Like completely. How do you know if someone that you love is embodied? Well, have deeper conversations. See their responses. See how they interact with you. And if you are concerned about someone in your space that they have just shifted and something's just not quite right, please hit me up. This is what I do. I haven't had the opportunity yet to bring a spirit back into an empty shell, but I believe that it is possible. I have gone the other way. I have returned spirits to empty shells from finding the spirit in the wrong place. So why wouldn't it work the other way? I am here to help you. I'm here to help you and your loved ones. Please be mindful of these beings and don't waste your time arguing, battling, engaging with people. Like if you can just tell there's not much going on, it's okay to move on. It's okay to let it go. Like no amount of your intelligence, wisdom, kindness is going to shake that. It is going to take a lot more. Especially if it's a stranger. If it's someone that you love and care about, please keep trying. But that's my philosophy for the day. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, on like the NPCs, I said that kind of weird, or empty people. So please start a little conversation in the comments below. I would love to see kind of maybe your experiences you've had with empty people, or like if you've experienced like someone just leave their body all of a sudden, or maybe even snap in with another entity. Like these things happen, and it's going to be happening more and more and more because the Schumann resonance is something that people don't talk about and nearly as much as it needs to be talked about. The Schumann resonance, for those who are not familiar, is basically the heartbeat of the earth. This is something that is quantifiable. It is tracked with something very similar to like a seismic meter. There are multiple different scales and different ways of reading it throughout the world. I believe that there are 4 different internationally accepted machines that record this data. But it literally looks like a seismic thing. It just bounces up and down. The threshold in the middle, which is like the heartbeat of Mother Earth, that is what our body is used to existing on. That's the frequency our body is used to existing on. So like, for example, if you are on a roller coaster or something and you're moving really, really, really fast, your heart rate's going to go up. All these things are going to start changing in your body. Your blood pressure is going to go up a little bit. That's like the Schumann resonance almost spiking, where it's like, okay, the frequency of the actual atmosphere around you is so much higher that your physical body reaction is going to change. Or if it drops really, 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 really low, like you're feeling low, depressed, maybe just really fatigued, lethargic, that could be the Schumann resonance dropping, and that is going to lower your blood pressure. That is going to lower the amount of electric why is my brain not working? Schumann resonance. I'm just kidding. Like it's going to lower the amount of stimuli that you have in your brain, and so you will be thinking a little slower. You might be forgetting stuff a little bit more. It also can influence dreams. So when there's more electrical activity inside the brain, you can end up with more dreams. So just being mindful of these kinds of things is really important for your own body and how you react in the world. So like if you're having an emotion, you're like, where is this coming from? Check the Schumann resonance. It very easily could be a global experience. So like if there's an earthquake, solar storm, well, we're in the middle of a solar storm, but like a solar flare, tsunamis, bombs going off, all of these things will influence the Schumann resonance. So when the Schumann resonance kind of flares, spikes, drops, and whatever is going on, I find a lot more empty people in the wild, because I feel like their body doesn't know how to operate. They just kind of go off the walls or stop functioning. Yeah, random tidbit, but that's all I got for you today. Think on it, engage in the comments. I am happy to answer further questions about this. If you're like, that sounds nuts, how could that even be a thing? Well, try to prove me wrong. All right, live spicy. See you on the other side, and TengDios.